Good morning. There is one ingredient missing in the crisis of confidence, or perhaps I should say the near crisis of confidence in the troubles of the Bank of British Columbia. And that missing ingredient is visible and voluble and strong support for a Western Canadian bank from Premier Bennett of British Columbia. In fact, the silence from the provincial government on this crucial issue is deafening. I don't want to create any more lack of confidence, but you know what the situation is. After a negative report, there was a run of $50 million on the bank's deposits. The stock dropped dramatically from 485 to 365 this morning, 350,000 shares traded. Because the 800 million that was supposed to be there, by my understanding, as an added investment by the four Western provinces wasn't there for some reason or another. So Kaiser's Bank had to go quickly to the Bank of Canada for ready cash to meet any additional run on the bank. Cash run seems to have stopped for the moment. But the one thing that keeps a bank going after the collapse of CCB and Northland is confidence. Now, this is Kaiser's Bank, but the way I look at the bank, Kaiser and the other shareholders, refinanced in '84, the way I look at it is that there are definite overtones that the Big Five want to make quite sure, if it happens that way, that they control all of the banking in Canada. Now, you know how it was in the old days. You couldn't get a decision out of a bank in British Columbia, a branch in British Columbia. The decisions had to be made in Eastern Canada. And I would suggest to you that with the evasions that Mr. Kaiser gave me on the program yesterday, we need some clear, crisp statements from Premier Bennett of British Columbia as to whether or not he's going to stand in Ottawa and tell the federal government and the Bank of Canada too, that he is leading the four Western provinces to make sure that crisis is maintained in the Bank of British Columbia. Not a question of the value of the stock in the Bank of British Columbia. Not a question of the fact that the stock's gone down. It's a question of the fact that Premier W.A.C. Bennett was the originator of the whole idea for a bank in Western Canada. Now, the economic situation has made things more difficult, but surely it is essential that the government of British Columbia come out front and center and make itself perfectly clear to the big banks and to the federal government that the Bank of British Columbia should be supported to survive if necessary. And I cannot understand why there is this deafening silence out of Victoria. As a matter of fact, it wouldn't be that bad an idea if you're a supporter of the bank to go down and put $10 in the bank today to show that you want a bank in Western Canada. And if that's a partisan view from the West, so be it. Funnily enough, I've got a new type politician coming into the office this morning, into the studio, but I don't think I'll tackle it about this. Guess who is coming in for a cup of coffee and a little political chat? That, of course, is the Mila Mulroney, the consort of our Prime Minister Brian Mulroney. Now, on the not-so-good news this morning for trade unions in British Columbia, there's this considerable confusion over what's going to happen in the PWA strike. Mark Schneider prepared a little sum-up of the situation.
After a bitter and sometimes violent 3-month strike, PWA service agents were ordered back to work yesterday by the Canadian Labour Relations Board. And that means crossing the picket lines of 2 other unions who are still on strike.
It's basically gut-wrenching to have to cross picket lines that you've been supporting for 3 months and have been participating with.
It all started November 19th when, assisted by the giant United Auto Workers, Bob White announced joint action by all three unions.
Strikes will commence with all unions at 12:01 midnight tonight.
But the planes kept flying despite the common front of the three unions and their appeal to the public to stop flying PWA. It was supposed to be one for all and all for one until yesterday's back-to-work order.
Morally, I didn't want to come back. But the company, they've come up with another ploy. They're doing a whole bunch of layoffs. And I'm a junior person. I'm only part-time. There's going to be over 120 layoffs. And so I know that definitely I'm going to be let go in a very short time.
But if there's no quick settlement, what's remaining of a common front could rapidly fall apart.
In the studio this morning, I have representatives of two of the three unions. Unfortunately, the UAW representative decided at the last minute not to come. But I have here Faye Douglas of the Canadian Airline Flight Attendants Association. She's the general chairperson of the bargaining unit. And Angie Schira of the International Association of Machinists, who is president of the BC Provincial Council of the Machinists Union. Also on the program this morning, we're going to have what I hope will be a little bit of fun. We've got John Gray here. He's a zealous nationalist from the Council of Canadians. And this year they had their first Canadian Dubious Distinction Awards. And John Gray is going to tell us about these awards and just make us roll in the aisles with his sarcasm and satire on the program today. But first off the top, if my tum-tum is right and the schedule is on time, we will interview Mila Mulroney, wife of Brian, Prime Minister of Canada, after the break. My housekeeping timing is a little bit off this morning, but the last time I interviewed Mila Mulroney was when Brian was running for the leadership, and she came on the set and was terribly charming. Since then, she's been doing quite a little bit of campaigning, it would seem. She does a lot of good work, so, of course. She was down at that First Ladies' Conference in Washington, D.C. with Nancy Reagan, where they discussed the problems of how you handle drugs with the youngsters. Recently, she's been very outspoken about other social problems. And of course, she was the Chatelaine Woman of the Year a little while back. And there's lots of material I have to talk to her about. What intrigues me most of all is the fact that she seems to be coming into the arena of politics and the press. And I don't know when she's going to get here. When I get hold of Steve Wyatt, I'm going to cut his throat. Let's go to the airline pilots. Let's go. I can't take a break. Just bring them on. Can I take a break? Okay, take a break.
When you're ready, you just move forward.
Oh, sure, Pat. Then I'll take him out again.
Are we taking a full 2-minute break here?
Yes, I guess so, Jack.
Can I have some coffee, please, Pamela?
How's that, Pat, for you?
I'm crazy doing this fucking job. At my age,
You handle it well, Jack.
coming up to 68, yeah, I'm still putting this through the goddamn thing every morning. Mila will be along after I've interviewed my two guests from the airline dispute. And my two guests are Angie Schira, International Association of Machinists. How many people have you got on strike?
600.
And Faye Douglas of CALFA. How many people have you got on strike?
500.
Now, can you explain to me quite briefly now why the UAW are back at work and crossing your picket lines?
Well, the company made an application to the Canada Labour Relations Board last week. It was quite a wide-sweeping application that they made to the board to order the UAW workers back to work. That was heard last Thursday. The Machinist and CALFA intervened in that application to save the picketing policy of Pacific Western Airlines, which was achieved. The board ordered the UAW strike illegal. They didn't order them actually back to work. They ordered the strike illegal.
They had accepted an offer from the company.
That's right, and took a ratification vote.
And the ratification company okayed that, so they went back to work, were forced back to work because it was a legal vote, and their strike was over.
Their strike was over. They still, I don't think, had to cross the picket lines, but they felt that they had to go back to work after 3.5 months.
And of course, they've got the heavy Bob White in the East saying, get back to work.
That's right.
Isn't that right?
Yes, correct.
Now, how many people have you got on strike, Angie?
600.
How long has it lasted?
We're into the 4th month now.
Faye Douglas, how many people have you got on strike? And you, of course, are the flight attendants, right?
Right.
How many people out?
We have 500.
500. Now, who's going to tell me what the company wants to do and why you're still on strike and why, if the UAW can accept an offer, you didn't accept it?
We didn't have, the Machinist Union didn't have the same offer. We went on strike on midnight of the 19th, as it was said earlier. We turned down an offer at that time. There was another offer in January of this year, and we were in a worse position than we were when we went out on strike. The company put a new subcontracting out clause on the table for the Machinist Union, which would have seen up to possibly 300 of our jobs disappear.
And that was the offer you got?
Yes.
Now, how about you?
Well, the offer that we got in January was not worse than the first one, but it certainly wasn't any better on the outstanding items. We took it to our members. We urged them to reject it, and they did so by a margin of 90%.
Is it correct that you've all been faced with longer hours of work?
Yes.
Yes.
A two-tier wage system. What's that?
Two
Well,
tiers for
that's the one that's the big bone of contention with us. It's starting off newly hired flight attendants at wages considerably below those of the people who are currently working.
In other words, they downgraded your old agreement.
That's right.
And new people come in at a much lesser level of wages.
That's right. In the company's proposal, they would take 8 years to reach the same wage scale as the flight attendants currently employed.
Now, were you in the same? No, you're different.
No, we have, one of the concessions was cross-utilization, which would have seen higher paid classifications, some of their jobs disappear to lower paid classifications. If I can give you an example, say groomers and cleaners doing some of the aircraft mechanics jobs, which would eliminate some of the high paid classifications. That's what cross-utilization
Well, PWA made a lot of money last year, didn't they?
They certainly did. They've been the most profitable carrier in Canada over the last 5 years.
Now, what about the pension plan? Was there trouble over that at all?
That was one of the common issues that we had with the 3 unions. The current pension plan is totally unacceptable. The government is making legislation, enacting legislation this year directed at plans specifically like the one at Pacific Western Airlines to force minimum improvements in the plan, and that's the package that the company has offered.
I would think it would be fair to say that most people are antipathetic, at least they're antipathetic to striking right now, and they can't understand why with the reasonably good wages you have at the moment, you won't take a little bit of a cut. You tell me, or you tell me.
But wages have never been an issue in this strike. We're talking about job security. We're talking about issues like subcontracting out, cross-utilization. Those are the issues in this strike and have been from the beginning. Wages have never been discussed at the bargaining table.
Never ever?
No.
In other words, they're trying to reduce the cost by extending the working day, cross-utilization, downgrading of classifications, and in your case, a two-tier wage system.
Right.
Well, yes, the other proposal that we found most onerous was a proposal for part-time flight attendants. We have no part-time flight attendants in Pacific Western Airlines, nor does Air Canada or CP Air, but the company had quite extensive proposals to introduce a whole new category of part-time flight attendants.
Would you face any layoffs under this?
Not unless the company reduces its size. Our numbers are legislated as related to the number of passengers on the aircraft.
That's right, by the safety regulations.
That's right. So unless the company actually rids itself of aircraft, they can't really lay off flight attendants.
Yeah, in other words, unless they reduce the operation, they can't
That's
lay
right.
off flight attendants.
That's
Whereas
right.
you say quite clearly and bluntly that due to the subcontracting out, they want that up to 300 your people could lose their jobs.
It could be up to 300 that could lose their jobs. They have mentioned it at the bargaining table in the past that groomers, cleaners, painters, etc. could lose their jobs, and those are the numbers that we came up
How
with.
are your people managing? Have your people, you've been on strike since November.
That's right.
What about strike pay?
Well, we do get strike pay. Our initial strike pay was $50 a week. After 9 weeks on strike, that was raised to $100 a week, where it remains today. There's no question, economically, it's been very difficult for my members. We have a lot of single parents. Fortunately, a number of our people are fairly young and have returned home or gone to their parents for assistance. My father's supported me throughout the strike.
How about your people? You're in a different kind of category because you've got a lot more male workers,
Yes,
haven't you?
yes, and we get $70 a week strike pay.
$70 a week strike pay. Well, what about, how long can you keep it up? Are you going to be forced back to work?
I don't think we'll be forced back to work at all. I think we can keep it up until we have an honorable settlement.
How about you?
That's how our members feel too. This strike was never about economics, and we knew when we were going in that economically we would probably lose more than we would gain. We're prepared for that.
You're fighting for your conditions and your present salary system.
That's right.
And you're fighting for keeping the work within the union jurisdiction.
That's right.
And not contracting it out.
That's right.
Are you a mechanic yourself?
No, I'm not. I'm in the maintenance unit.
You're in the
yes.
maintenance unit. Now, what else? What do you think of it? Because UAW has gone back to work, should they go back to work, or should they tough it out on a point? It's economics involved in this, is it not? You've had some nasty scenes on the picket lines. I noticed the court stepped in and I think told PWA to clean up its act, didn't it?
Well, actually, PWA from the start hired a security firm by the name of Pat Westfall Consultants. They hired it, our information is that they hired this company 2 weeks prior to the strike, stating that they expected some violence on the picket lines. We're talking about employees with an average of 10 years seniority with Pacific Western Airlines, and they predicted that there was going to be violence on the picket line. The evidence that we have had from this Pat Westfall Consultants Limited, the hiring of the security guards, they are actually trained in martial arts. They have got kickboxers. There has been violence on the picket lines. Our people have been beaten up by these security people.
Did you start any of it?
Did we start any of it? No, it was totally unprovoked. We have got witnesses that will swear to that.
And I noticed the courts refused a company application for an injunction limiting the number of pickets at the Vancouver International Airport.
Yes, that was in front of Chief Justice.
Alan McKechnie.
Right.
Okay, what do you think of the PWA situation? Let me know on the phone after the break. My two guests are from the International Association of Machinists and from the Canadian Airline Flight Attendants Association. What about your sick leave and vacation pay? Were they after that too in the negotiations?
Initially, they came after ours very hard. We have a provision in our collective agreement whereby we work on statutory holidays with no extra credit, but as a compensation for that, we have 2 weeks vacation. And the company wanted to delete that. They came after us on sick leave, wanting to substantially reduce our sick leave by about 50%. Now, we've so far made compromises on both those positions and have resolved them at this stage.
Are you right when you say in this fact sheet that PWA is the most profitable airline in North America?
Yes, we have information from Air Transport magazine, and also CALFA did a study on that and found that Pacific Western Airlines was not only the most profitable airline in North America, but also one of the most efficient airlines in North America.
Which is a tribute to the management as well as to the staff.
That's right.
Let's go to the phones. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, just some support for both of those unions. It looks like another case of Alberta rules. We've got it coming up in construction where we're going to try and wipe everything out that we fought for over the last few years.
Alberta rules, Alberta rules. The headquarters are still in Calgary, of course, aren't
Yes.
they?
Right.
PWA.
And the part-time thing is really sleazy. That's more for the flight line attendants, that when they put them on part-time, they can wipe out a lot of their pension things. My mother worked part-time for years, and her pension is pathetic for the amount of years and time she put in. just because she was part-time, because there's no full-time credits for it.
Okay, but let me ask you a question. How much would a full-time CALFA attendant make in a year? What kind of money are we talking about?
Approximately 20,000 to 30,000, depending on their
Routes and the flying times.
well, no, on their seniority and their salary range.
And of course, the Machinist Union, you're fairly well paid, as I recall.
Well, we have a broad scope of classifications. We range from 20,000 to 35,000 a year.
Go ahead, please.
Two questions. How many of the UAW went back to work? And the second question, where are the pilots in this? Why aren't they supporting you?
Well, I don't know the exact numbers, but the majority of the UAW have gone back to work. Some of the officers and some of the people who have been the strongest throughout the strike are supporting the picket lines.
Very few, though.
Very few, yes. We're disappointed.
And what about the
that.
pilots?
The pilots have taken the position that they claim is neutral in this. They have exercised what they call picket line etiquette, which is to walk around picket lines whenever they have the opportunity.
You go in the back door.
Yes.
But they say, do they not, that they're contracted, and if they break the contract, they can get sued?
Yes, that's the position that they've maintained. They are currently in contract negotiations with Pacific Western.
For job security, same thing?
I'm not sure what the issues are with the pilots at this stage. They're only recently into contract negotiations.
Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I'd just like to say that I think this lady is a little bit not on the up and up about situations being unprovoked on the line. I myself have been in those vans going through the lines. I must admit at times it gets a little bit hairy on both sides. But when I've been through the lines at times when keys have been dragged down the sides of the vans, people have smashed windows in, people have smashed mirrors, and this lady is trying to tell us that these are unprovoked. I cannot see someone who's been unprovoked smashing a window, taking their keys down the side of vans, dumping acid on the vans so the paint runs, doing all kinds of vandalism.
What do you say?
Well, we agree. Those actions were provoked by the fact that the company has been busing people through the picket lines and has been using the security guards to harass the picketers.
No security guards have,
I've
gone through, have ever harassed.
Take it from me that when you have a protracted strike, you always have trouble on both sides. You've had nothing here as bad as down in Falls Creek, though, have you?
Well, I'd just like to make a comment on when you have the Chief Justice of the province of British Columbia being totally opposed to hiring security guards of this sort for a strike in British Columbia, and he said it in his reasons for decision when we were in front of him in December. And I'd just like to add that this caller said that there were no security guards that acted in any violent way. We have criminal charges that are going ahead where picketers were actually punched in the face by these security people.
And I think you should quote from the Chief Justice. He said, I think the unnecessary use of security services, including videotaping, push things to a flashpoint. He says, seeking reductions, but at the same time has given generous bonuses to strike breakers. That is not enlightened labor relations.
Yes.
That was one of the instances that provoked rage on the picket line, was the question of the Christmas bonuses for the scabs. Flight attendants like myself who've been with the company for 17 years have never seen a bonus. Maintenance people with 30 years seniority have never seen a bonus, but the company saw fit to provide Christmas bonuses for the replacement employees after 3 weeks.
Fair enough. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Jack. I am totally against the companies companies not offering these employees a fair settlement. I think that's actually criminal. These people worked hard for that airlines. I used to fly it. I don't any longer, and it's an absolute shame. Thank you.
You're with them all the way, I gather. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. I want to offer my support to all the strikers, first of all, and I want to comment particularly on the issues that Ms. Douglas was referring to, that of part-time workers and a two-tier wage system. I think for Pacific Western, they're trying to make us believe that the bottom line there is a cost-cutting measure, which, sure enough, it will cut costs. But when you see what the bottom line is, you end up with full-time workers making one wage and full-time workers making a lower wage. You then have part-time workers making a low wage and part-time workers making a high wage, and you end up with, in fact, 4 factions within a bargaining unit. And I think Pacific Western's main aim is to split what they view as a very, very strong bargaining unit into 4 different factions.
Certainly one of the undertones in this strike from CALFA's point of view has been an all-out attack on the union. The company came at us initially with proposals as preposterous as reducing the seniority accrual of people who are on long-term sick leave. The only possible reason we could see for that was to get these people off the seniority list so that they could then hire people at the 2-tier wage scale. That caller is quite right. We see this, so many things in the company's proposals as an attack on the union.
Go ahead, please.
Morning, Jack. I'd just like to agree with these ladies here, and I think that the company should get off their asses and get these people back to work. I usually fly PWA quite regularly down to Calgary, but I won't because of safety reasons and just because of the strike action, and they're going to be losing a lot more money.
Thank you. Thank you. Fair enough. Go ahead, please.
I'd just like to mention this poor fellow in the van. I mean, doesn't he realize what he is? He's a scab, you know. You call it a strike breaker, but the word is a scab. Now, if he wasn't there, the strike would have been over months ago.
Fair enough, but you've got to remember that they're just as entitled to operate as not during a strike, aren't they?
Yeah, just like in Quebec where they have anti-scab legislation, where they used to have it here back in the 50s. That's all I got to say. And if they weren't there...
Much obliged. Go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. The goons, I was at the airport one day picking up a friend of mine off a flight, and it was just deplorable. I have never seen such huge, big monsters in all my life. And I fly quite a bit with Pacific Western Airlines. I'm a businessman. I am not anti-union, but sometimes I am for or against unions. And another thing is, why has this airline gone downhill since it's moved to Calgary? It used to be a family airline, as I can read in the papers and everything else. Is it management change, or is it because the government got involved?
Well, financially, it's not going to have downhill, is it?
No, it certainly hasn't.
May have lost some money during the strike, mind you. You don't know what the up-to-date figures are.
The company's been very secretive about the figures, but we do have information that they've spent over $1 million in legal fees fighting us on the picket lines and at the CLRB during this strike, as well as at least $250,000 a month, for the security guards here in Vancouver. They also have security guards at all the other major bases.
One of the other things, Jack, also is the fact about deregulations. That's what this whole strike is about, is deregulations. And it just follows what happened in the United States with deregulations, where it falls on the workers' backs so that the company can make more profits. PWA has had a return on their investment for the investors of 14 to 15%.
I'm not that keen on deregulation myself. Maybe I'm just a nervous Nelly who likes to think that all that is necessary to be spent on safety and equipment is spent on.
That's correct.
Go ahead, please.
Good morning. I'd like to offer my support to these 2 women, and just to say that I do a lot of flying in my work, and I specifically haven't been flying PWA because I don't want to support that kind of strike-breaking effort, and I know there are a lot of people who also fly and are doing exactly the same thing.
Thank you. Well, you've got lots of support. Anything else you want to say before I chase you away? No?
Well, other than I would just like to comment on what happened yesterday in front of the Canada Labour Relations Board. The company applied for an adjournment. We have an unfair labour practice charge in front of the board with regards to this security company, Pat Westfall Security Company. The company it was their 4th attempt yesterday to get an adjournment to that hearing, and they accomplished getting that adjournment. I do not think that they should have got the adjournment. I think it should be heard. Our understanding is that this Pat Westfall company has got the security contract now, is going to be getting the security contract for the White Spot and possibly for Expo. And I think that these hearings should be heard, and it should be aired out in the province of British Columbia.
Well, you don't know that. You're spreading rumor now.
No, well, this is what we've heard from legal counsel.
Oh, I see. So you want a hearing on them right now?
Most definitely.
Well, thanks for coming in this morning, and I just hope the strike is over soon and satisfactorily. My thanks to Faye Douglas from CALFA and Angie Schira from the Machinist Union.
Thank you,
Thanks
Jack.
very much. Next, Mila Mulroney. What do you say? Did you say the Prime Minister's wife? No, Mila Mulroney, on her own, after the break. Mila Mulroney is in her second year at 24 Sussex Drive, which, in case you didn't know it, is a somewhat lavish house with a swimming pool put in by the Liberals, where the Prime Minister and his wife and family live. Is it a tough life at 24 Sussex Drive with all those sparkling dinner parties each and every night and a very heavy social life?
It's a very nice life, yes, it's very nice, but it's not all as you say it is.
Tell me this, what are we going to talk about this morning? Am I, you know, a 67-year-old chauvinist sexist, am I going to sit and attempt to talk politics seriously with the Prime Minister's wife?
I don't know, are you?
Well, I sometimes find it difficult to get the Prime Minister to come.
Well, I'm sure if you invite him, he'd come.
Well, we've had
He's enjoyed your company many a time, hasn't he?
A couple of times he's dodged it too, but that's another story. All right, campaign for the budget. I think personally the budget is a disaster. Didn't go far enough if I'm a conservative, and it went too far if I'm a liberal. Now you tell me why I should love this budget.
Well, I think you should wait and see, first of all. I don't think you should love it or hate it until you see what happens. I think it's too early to tell.
The dollar keeps slipping.
Well, but it'll come back.
The price of oil keeps slipping.
Talk to Pat Carney about that. She's one of your local residents, and she's quite an adamant person. I think she's going in the right direction.
All right now, actually, you've been busy. Do you spend your time doing do-good things, or do you do serious stuff?
I think do-good things are serious things.
All right, give me your favorite do-good thing.
Well, I think raising $8 million to fight cystic fibrosis is a very do-good thing, but I think it's a very valuable thing. I think if you take, people have been screaming to get bureaucracy off their backs. I think if we as individuals and volunteers try and raise $8 million personally, I think we're A, helping reduce government expenditures, and B, putting it where it's important.
I consider my nose taken off on that. Of course it's a good thing, but how much of the $8 million have you raised?
I think we're halfway there.
Now what about drugs? I see you were down at the First Ladies' Conference in Washington some time ago. Did that do any good?
I think it opened up certainly some eyes. I think we've started a program here called Pride, which is, as a matter of fact, is started out in Saskatoon, and it's a parental group. What we got out of that conference was that parents can do the most where children are concerned vis-a-vis drugs, and that groups, when Nancy Reagan took over the project, there were 1,000 parental groups in the United States. There are now 9 after 4.5 years. And I think it's very important that that parents know that it's working in the United States, that in Canada as well it can work.
You know, this is a city particularly, and the province, which has been, you know, covered with drugs for all the time I've been here, certainly since the middle 50s. Nobody seems to come up with a firm opinion, and this is one of our biggest black market cash crops in British Columbia. You know, we grow very good pot here, it would seem. What should we do?
Well,
I mean, people smoke, people drink. Why not legalize marijuana?
well, because why not legalize it? Because every indication is that anyone who starts with marijuana ends up, or no one who's taking cocaine has not had marijuana. Marijuana is the beginning of potential use of harder drugs. And through education, which we start in through JCEP's programs in early elementary school, where we teach good self-esteem and to stand up to peer pressure, we've been able to do very good work. And in turn, we have decreased the use of marijuana. Unfortunately, we do have a problem with cocaine.
It's a hell of a problem with cocaine. Now, I don't know what you do about it. Just the other day, there was another Supreme Court decision under the Charter of Rights, which is going to make it much more difficult to throw the book at big-time drug traffickers. That's where they reverse the burden of proof. And that's going to make life more difficult to put them away. But sometimes when you look at the state of affairs in any metropolitan part of Canada, you think, maybe you should just legalize it and keep it away from the youngsters.
No, I couldn't disagree more.
You're totally against that kind of thing.
Totally against
But
legalizing.
The youngsters will say to you, as they say to me, well, you've got your booze. Marijuana is less damaging than booze.
Well, we talked about booze at this conference, too.
It's just as bad.
It's just as bad.
In every which way.
Any kind of excess is bad.
Did you ever smoke?
Never.
You're just lucky. You realize that.
Yeah, I think so.
Brian used to smoke quite a lot.
Oh, you're talking cigarettes.
Oh, no.
I did.
Do you think I would ask you if you smoked marijuana?
Absolutely.
No, I wouldn't.
know the questions you ask.
All right, you've never smoked marijuana. You did get a nose full of it at some rock concert once, didn't you?
I did, and it was the most horrendous feeling.
Second-hand smoke?
Oh, it was terrible. I couldn't feel the sidewalk when I walked home.
Second-hand pot. My microphone's falling off. But you never smoked cigarettes?
I did. I have to confess. I stopped when I was pregnant for my third child.
You smoked until you were
I
pregnant
did.
for your third child?
Yes.
How old
I wasn't a big smoker, though.
You mean the odd one?
Never more than a pack, but still quite a bit.
Brian was a big smoker.
Yes, he was.
Tell me the truth. Does he still sneak one in the downstairs bathroom
No.
occasionally at 24 Sussex Drive?
No.
Can you guarantee that?
Yes.
Well, how do you keep your, how heavy are you?
How much do I weigh?
Yeah.
139 pounds.
How tall are you?
5 feet 9.5.
You're maybe 5 pounds overweight.
Want to know how old I am?
Yeah.
32.
Are you 5 pounds overweight?
I think so.
Yeah. I was thinking that myself when you came in this morning.
Jack, you never change.
More questions from me and from you to Mila Mulroney. Much more pleasant to talk to than her husband, the Prime Minister, after the break. Mila Mulroney, in her own right here today. Mila Mulroney, you won the Chatelaine Woman of the Year award, did you not?
Yes.
Did you like the letters they wrote about you in Chatelaine?
I don't mind letters that are contradictory or critical.
Are you unflappable?
No, I'm flappable.
This woman has taken over a suite of 4 rooms in a government building, acquired 3 aides, spending $100,000 a year of taxpayers' money on the flimsy excuse that she receives as many as 100 letters a week, asking her help on matters stuck in the bureaucratic process. It would be cheaper to prod the bureaucrats into action. That woman's criticizing you for the unnecessary expenditure of public money.
What's the question?
Is there any truth in what she says?
Well, the truth is that there has been no taxpayers' dollars put into my office. All my staff, as all previous wives, are under the PMO umbrella. They've all been accounted for. I'm not leasing any space. I got 1 large room that we subdivided, and the letters have gone up to 300 now a week.
And they're not
And
just
there's a
fan
lot
letters.
of other, and they're certainly not just fan letters. They're very valid letters from special interest groups such as the disabled, and we have ethnocultural groups writing to me. We have school children. We have, and 300 letters a week is a lot to handle, not to mention speaking engagements and social things, and so.
It's not a pretend career as the Prime Minister's wife.
I don't think it's a pretend career, and I'd like to make it very clear that it's a full-time job and it's a lot of hard work. And I think in many ways, the career has been unfolding quite quickly.
How does I'd concede that. I mean, you're a necessary part of the establishment, and you're you're our number 2 hostess in the country, aren't you? Are you? You're number 1.
I don't know about hostessing. You know, I think one of the things that we try very much.
Is that not part of your job?
I think it's a part of the job, but I don't think we've done as much entertaining as people think we have. I think certainly there's a lot of government functions that we've been doing, but you know, we've been trying to be fiscally responsible in Ottawa, and I think that's the kind of message that we've come across with. We haven't had the kind of, as a matter of fact, we got quite a bit of criticism that in our first year we didn't entertain enough, but I think that's the direction we should go. I mean, where else are you going to have a Prime Minister that in 2 years has taken $22,000 off his salary? I mean, I think, you know, there's an indication.
How much did he suffer during all the unfortunate incidents early in the government's career? Does Brian show a lot of strain?
I don't think he shows a lot of strain, but it was a concern to him. I don't think it was a pleasant time for us. I would have liked to have cut out September.
But you're over the hump now, over the hill.
I hope so.
And on the smooth road to continued political success.
Well, I hope so. I hope we're doing the right thing.
Look, something I've got to ask you, because somebody will ask on the phones if I don't ask you. What? That caper about the saluting, tell me the score on that. You were accused of demanding that the Mounties salute you. Was that
No, I never did.
A lot of nonsense.
It was a lot of nonsense.
Well, that was a... Hoy and Doug Fisher.
Wasn't Doug Fisher.
No, Fisher came to your defense,
He
and
came
he
to
and
my
Hoy
defense.
almost did a punch-up in the gallery.
Well, I heard that third hand, so I'm not quite sure exactly what happened. But I didn't. I'm certainly not one to ask things like that. And I quite understand that comment where Brian said Mila's from Eastern Europe and she salutes people. And you know, Eastern Europeans found that very valid.
Yeah.
Very valid. It was not as flippant as people thought.
Yeah, because of
Yes.
the ever-present fear of
Absolutely,
arbitrary, arrogant
absolutely. And we are.
police authority.
We know very much the important role that the Mounties play.
Well, I'm going to go to the phones now.
Okay.
So you're not talking to me, you're talking to Mila Mulroney. And may they call you Mila?
Absolutely.
Yes, of course. She's Mila to you and she's Mila to me. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Mila.
Hello.
I'd like to commend you on your support of the CF Foundation, as I have two siblings that have CF, and it's appreciated in this day and age when the government is cutting back on their grants to the foundation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Nice call. You never know what's going to happen here, mind you. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Mila. You just go to it. I think you're fantastic. Don't let Jack give you any flack. You're a model for every woman in Canada, and I support you all the way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How old is Nicholas now?
6 months today.
That's 4.
That's 4.
Names again, please.
Caroline, Benedict, Mark, and Nicholas.
You call him Benny?
No, I call him Ben.
You call him Ben, that's better. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Mila, I have a suggestion for restoring self-esteem in Canada as far as drug problems and what have you go. Why not have a government that at least has some kind of a plan instead of jumping around from year to year? People need jobs to feel self-esteem and to feel that they're putting back into society what they're getting in welfare and UI benefits and every other thing. People don't want those kinds of things. They want jobs. They don't want people going, these volunteer organizations just take a little bit more heat off the government for now because of their careless spending. And they have no plan. They just go from year to year.
Okay, bye, that's a good comment. Jobs is the big thing out here, of
Absolutely.
course. Because you see, I always tell people from Central Canada and Eastern Canada, there's only 6% unemployment in Ontario. And I don't think they realize, that people in Ontario, how tough we are having it out here.
Well, that's what all the government's been talking about is jobs.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, I'd just like to say that wouldn't it be a good idea to, instead of legalize marijuana, maybe make it available in the liquor stores, and then therefore they could tax it and get the drug problem off the streets, and enforce. Then they would be able to enforce a little more control on it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very leery of anything that puts easy accessibility of drugs into the hands of perhaps children or people who really don't know better.
Here, here. Go ahead, please.
Oh, good morning.
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 Welcome to British Columbia, Mila.
Thank you.
And I just want to say I hope you will thank Mr. Webster for permitting you to appear between his breaks and his crises. As you probably know, he's a scriptwriter for Dallas. He moonlights.
Oh.
But in any case, we
This
think
being
that,
British Columbia, I shall promptly issue a writ against you for libel. we throw out libel writs. Like.
As you know, your station has become Crisis City, and it's a question of whether you, I think we should name it Dallas the Second.
I don't understand that crack at all. Send me a letter if you can write. Go ahead, please. Oh, sorry, ma'am. Go ahead. I thought I was alone for the moment. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Jack.
Yes.
I'm on the air.
Yes.
I want to speak to Mila. May I call her Mila?
Absolutely.
I have a picture of you and the Prime Minister and the 3 children here. Everybody thinks you're my grandchildren. Excuse me. I had a stroke and I lose my voice.
How old are you?
80 years.
Good for you and happy birthday.
So, just like my granddaughter.
This is
Thank
becoming
you.
a fan thing. I think we'll do one more section of telephone calls. If you don't mind, do you
Not
mind?
at all. Not at all.
Love your suit.
Thank you.
Made in Ottawa?
Made in Ottawa.
Ottawa. I will not ask the price. After the
I
break.
won't tell you.
On the deadly serious side, I noticed that you, Mila, and Jill Turner, Lucille Broadbent, and Maureen are doing something about sexual abuse. What is that you're doing?
Well, it's the Badger Report. What we've done is we've encouraged and trying to support the cause against child abuse. It's a terrible, silent crime that's being perpetrated on many Canadian children, and so we're just trying to bring interest.
I understand you've got 100 MPs and senators, and have you spoken to the Prime Minister about it?
Well, our group met the Prime Minister last week, and I think it's going to be in the next few weeks some action will be taken.
Good. Well, there's much greater awareness of the problem now than there ever was before, I think,
Yes.
here on the West Coast, but not enough kind of corrective action seems to be able to be taken at the moment. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Mr. Webster. I would like to, first of all, congratulate Mila on her attitudes towards children and family life. And I would like to ask her, in light of the Conservative Task Force looking into daycare, what we as voters can do to encourage our individual MPs to get behind this and take some action.
Well, first of all, you said the right word. You have to encourage your MPs. They have to be very vocal about it. This government's a government that listens, it consults, and I think when there's a strong voice, and strong voices sent to Ottawa, it's just a matter of time before action is implemented.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead from Campbell River, please.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Mila. I'm calling more or less just to find out a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, your education background, and how you personally feel about being the First Lady in Canada.
Well, I came to Canada when I was 5 years old from Yugoslavia. My father was on what I call his third career. He's a lawyer, and he did medicine in Yugoslavia, and then he came and did his medicine again and studies in Canada. I grew up in what I would call lower middle class in Montreal. I went to some very good schools. My father felt that education, my family felt that education was the way to a successful future. What was your last question?
How does it really feel to be the wife of the Prime Minister at your age and your time?
I think this is going to be the most, I think of this as a fabulous time in my life, and I'm going to enjoy every bit of it and learn from it, and I'm just loving every minute.
Good. Go ahead from Kelowna.
Yes, most of the problems we have with marijuana stems from alcohol. Most people that take alcohol end up getting killed. There's child abuse. Any family situations hurt is usually to do with alcohol. I don't know why you blame all the heavy drugs.
Well, I used to blame it in my younger days when we had a criminal drug population in Vancouver on the old heroin that would choke a horse, but I don't follow your logic. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Jack.
Morning.
Good morning, Mila.
Good morning.
You're a very lovely-looking lady. I've got two questions for you. Where did you get the word "och"?
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
And the second one is, as I say, you're very pretty. Why don't you cut your bangs?
Oh, they are cut. I cut them this week to come to
in your eyes.
BC. Oh, I'm sorry. How's that? Is that better? I got the word "och" probably from some of my friends that influenced me a little bit, and and we're very emotional, demonstrative family, and so I think that probably that all kinds of funny sayings come out from our mouths.
Och is generally speaking Scotch or Irish.
Well, maybe
Och.
that's it.
Good, then. I wanted to ask you that myself. Go ahead, please. I've been learning some language or other. I've lost my notes. Dobro jutro.
Dobro jutro. Good morning.
That's good morning, and
That's
what?
good. Serbo-Croatian.
I'm glad I know what language it is. Go ahead, please. Hello.
Hello.
That's you, ma'am.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
I just want to congratulate Mila on her dedication to the youth of this country. It's really appreciated.
Thank you.
Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Mila.
Good morning.
I only hope that the public who spend time criticizing you realize the pressures you work and live under, and that they too are willing or are giving their time and money to similar volunteer organizations, anything that needs volunteer time or money, and that they're not criticizing you unless they too are giving this time and working and living under the same pressures that you are. They may be different pressures, but nevertheless pressures. And I really congratulate you on your work.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning, Jack.
Morning.
Good morning, Mila.
Good morning.
I just have what I figure is a foolproof method of getting people off welfare, and I was wondering if you could pass it along to the Prime Minister.
Pass it along. We'll all be fascinated if you can give us the answer.
Okay, well, the way I see it, what you do is you take your welfare recipient and you cut his welfare, which is already happening, and then you slowly implement a training program to get him back to work. And as he makes more money from the training program and eventually full-time work, you gradually ease him off welfare.
You're saying assistance through the retraining program. That already is in some government schemes.
That's it. We've there's quite a bit of retraining going on, including reestablishing for senior citizens.
Yeah, we have a real problem in this province at the moment, as you know. Last call. Go ahead, please.
Hello. The reason I'm calling, hello Mila,
Hello.
welcome.
Thank you.
I was just wondering how you felt about the comment that Prime Minister Mulroney made on Good Morning America a few weeks back about, you know, how the Americans don't really pay that much attention to Canadians and that. I do agree, but I just wondered, he's so diplomatic, I was surprised. I wondered what your feelings were and just...
Well, when my husband, when Brian addressed the international publishers in Montreal several months ago, or a year ago, he mentioned to them that he was quite disillusioned that, for example, Time magazine and the papers and the magazines that are put into the hands of the United States citizens are unfortunately not very well informed on Canadians. We in Canada know so much about the United States, and they don't know very much about us. So I think that there is a lot of truth to that, and we hope to open up the awareness, certainly.
There was a classic mistake in the New York Times the other day when they had $229 billion down as our deficit, when in fact that was our debt.
That's it.
Our deficit
That's
being
it.
29.8 projected in the
That's
new
it.
budget. Plans for today? Are you doing some more cystic fibrosis stuff today? When do you go back to Ottawa?
I'm going to Victoria, and then I'm going to Nanaimo, and tonight I fly to Calgary. I go to Red Deer, Saskatoon, Edmonton,
And back to Ottawa.
and Winnipeg,
And back to Ottawa. My thanks to Mila Mulroney, the wife of Prime Minister Brian Mulroney of Canada. You've been a delightful, charming, and forthright guest.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next to John Gray after the break. Thank you. I'm sorry. John Gray is more than a playwright. He's more than a novelist. He's more than a director. More than an all-around arty type. He's a gadfly. Gadfly?
Gadfly, yes.
And a zealot on Canadian nationalism.
Well, it's easy to be a zealot, a Canadian nationalist. I mean, all you got to do is not want to be part of another country and you're a nationalist.
But you're in Heptig's organization.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The Council of Canadians.
Yes. Big admirer. Have you seen the Canadian Encyclopedia?
Yes.
It's just so wonderful to be able to open a book and see Canadian statistics and things about Canada.
I'm very proud of the fact that I'm in it.
You're in it?
Yeah.
Good for you. I'm not. I got a bone to pick with it.
Half a dozen lines. But I want you to launch into your satirical diatribe, if it is satirical, on the Dubious Distinction Awards. First of all, tell me where they came from.
Well, the February 15th, I don't know if anyone noticed, but February 15th is called Flag Day. And it's a day when Canadians, patriotic Canadians, take a split second to have a look at the flag, if they can find one, perhaps to sing the national anthem if they can agree on the lyrics. And in keeping with that special day, we at the Council of Canadians think it's appropriate to award those Canadians who are doing their part to speed the country down the road it's on. As Prime Minister Mulroney once said, the country is going to be unrecognizable in 10 years, and we want to salute those Canadians who are helping to bring this about. Now, I know what you're thinking. I mean, the Americans have been giving awards for years, and I know we're playing copycat in equally tasteless fashion. But after all, what can you expect? This is Canada. We export resources and we import ideas, and that's the way it is. But only a fool bucks a trend, so the Council of Canadians sheepishly present the Canadian Dubious Distinction Awards, CADA for short, you can call it, the all-purpose awards for those Canadians who are helping to make Canada unrecognizable. Shall I start?
What's your first award?
Well, the CADA Award for Culture, otherwise known as the Scorched Earth Award, has some strong contenders this year. For film, we gave the nod to Sylvester Stallone, who shot Rocky IV in Vancouver because it's the only place in the world where you can get your extras for a piece of fried chicken and know that they'll be white.
For television.
For television, we're thrilled for Stan Graham, MP for Kootenay East, Revelstoke, who said that the CBC network should be sold to the private sector. We're with you, Stan. Canadians don't want to watch Canadians on TV, and they make lousy programs too. But why stop there, Stan? Many of us would like to see our highways given to the private sector, and after the de Havilland sale, given is just the word. After all, Canadians don't want to visit Canadians and their lousy drivers. Or the Army. Let the multinationals arm their own troops. The uniforms would be nicer.
The winner?
But the winner is, wouldn't you know it, folks, the winner is the U.S. government. To the named U.S. official who told Stephen Roth, who was chairman of the Mass Probe, quote, the U.S. entertainment conglomerates see Canada as Philadelphia. Well, there you have it. Thanks to this man, the Canadian identity problem is solved, and Brian Mulroney is now mayor of Philadelphia.
How about the award for the economy?
This goes to that individual or organization which has contributed significantly to putting the Canadian economy where it is today and keeping it there. Runner-up is, of course, the Canadian Commercial Bank, which, in an unprecedented display of corporate responsibility and statesmanship, bailed out its subsidiary, the Westland Bank of California.
Right.
A few weeks later, the Canadian Commercial Bank was bailed out by us. Who was going to bail us out, you might ask, but the CCB isn't around to reply.
The
Congratulations.
winner of that one for the economy.
Heavenly day, it's the government of Canada for selling the de Havilland Aircraft Company to Boeing for the cost of 2 F-18 fighter planes and a few spare parts. All we can hope is that the same razor-sharp savvy will be brought to bear on the free trade negotiations, and then perhaps we can live in PEI.
The award for defense.
Well, we haven't quite decided what it is we want to defend, but by gosh, we're ready to defend it. Thanks to the West Edmonton Mall, where you can stand guard by riding a submarine yourself. The West Edmonton Mall has 4 submarines to choose from. The Canadian Navy has 3.
And what's the final award?
The award you've all been waiting for, the Grand Doubt. The CATA Award to that individual or organization that points the way for us all, shoots an arrow into the air to fall to earth we know not where, a symbol for Canadian long-term strategy.
And the runner-up.
By gosh, it's Simon Reisman. Simon Reisman, our beloved free trade negotiator, so beloved that we pay him $1,000 a day. Simon takes the runner-up position for his visionary support for water diversion, that is, the sale of Canadian water to the USA. We don't have anything else to offer, he says. That's good to know, Simon, and all we can hope is that you aren't put in charge of the blood bank.
But the winner, the big doubt for 1986, goes to...
Goodness gracious, Jack, it's the village of Ochre Pit, Newfoundland, for applying to the U.S. government for foreign aid. Good for you, Ochre Pit Cove. We're with you. Go for it. Then perhaps you'll show the rest of us how to fill out the forms.
Good, good. You're a one-man committee to give these awards, aren't you?
Yeah, the committee of one. It was held in a sealed envelope, though, in the trunk of my Datsun.
But I think you've been negligent in one thing. You should have a British Columbia Dubious Distinction Award.
I think we're going to have to start that next year. It's important, I think, to have.
It is important, and so many are so obvious.
Well, there are so many dubious distinctions.
There certainly are. More with John Gray, your calls, a little chat up, free for all as well, if you like, after the break. Well, it's been a mix match of items this morning. What did you think of Mila this morning?
Oh, she's a very charming lady. She's very charming. I don't exactly, sometimes I don't know exactly what she's saying at one time or another, but she says it very well.
Now, you say you just finished directing a film.
Yeah, The King of Friday Night, which just won the New York Film and Television Festival, 890 entrants.
Did you do it here?
Yeah, we shot part of it. We shot in Nova Scotia, and I'm from Nova Scotia.
Oh,
actually.
I see.
I live here now. I've lived here for, 5 years.
You live in a fishboy here?
No,
Nova Scotia?
I was inland Nova Scotia. We wouldn't go anywhere near the ocean if you paid us.
And so you won the New York
Film and Television Festival.
Canadian film?
No, yeah, exactly.
How much did it cost?
About $1 million.
Oh, I was in a $2 million film.
You were?
Yeah.
My goodness.
High Stakes.
You were in High Stakes?
Yeah. I hope I finish up as the face on the cutting room floor. And I don't think High Stakes...
Yeah, sometimes if you're lucky, you can...
Yeah, you get lost it.
Yeah.
Okay, we need some phone calls on a free-for-all and to John, and we're going to talk about various things. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'm just as patriotic as any other Canadian, and I like to see Canadian content in the media. But I kind of wonder how anybody could justify an over and above increase of $75 million in the budget for arts and whatnot while cutting defense, to have a guy like this come on TV and make snide comments about the military.
Okay, $75 million additional for the arts and in the budget, and you are a despicable creature coming on here and making snide comments about defense. Now, just
well, you see,
explain yourself.
that's typical, isn't it? Now, one of the problems with being a Canadian artist is you've got to speak to guys like this and defend the CBC, you've got to defend the Canada Council, you've got to defend the Canadian government's arts policy. I don't have to defend those things. I don't get Canada Council grants, I don't work for the CBC, and I don't work for the government. I don't have to defend them.
You're an artist in your own right.
I'm an artist in my own right. I make a living, I got a house, I got 2 kids, and I got a mortgage, okay?
What an easy way to make a living.
What do you mean, an easy way to make a living? If you're involved in creative endeavors such as John and myself, it's a great mental stress.
It took me 10 years to make a living.
You, Mr. Webster, but I can hardly justify him.
Oh, no, that's nonsense. I object to your slur to my guest.
I beg your pardon?
I object to your slur to my guest.
I object to his slur on the military.
What slur on the military?
I only said that there are 3 submarines. You're saying
about
more?
An organization that's been underfunded, trodden into the dirt deliberately over the last years by the Trudeau government, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, you can't blame him for the Trudeau government.
I beg your pardon?
You must admit our Navy has been a bit of a laughingstock for some considerable time. Not due to the sailors. Not due to the sailors, but due to government policies that wouldn't put money out for a long time to correct the boilers.
Yeah, well, it'd be nice to see once in a while that the media and entertainment people say something good about the service. It's pretty rough on the guys sometimes.
Yeah, it'd be nice to hear guys like you say something nice about Canadian entertainers, too.
Oh, I do. I like some of them, but they could try to be a little more positive about people who one day and have been in the past called upon to.
I understand your sensitivity, and thank you for your call. That's a diplomatic.
I think we ran that one dry, yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Oh, yes, a question for John Gray.
Sure.
I'd like to ask him, why did he choose for his play somebody nobody's ever heard of up in Canada, Billy Bishop? Why didn't he write it about Eddie Rickenbacker, who is very well known in British Columbia?
Eddie Rickenbacker is an American. Billy Bishop is a Canadian. Eddie Rickenbacker shot down 14 planes. Billy Bishop shot down 72. Billy Bishop was the most decorated pilot in the First World War. Billy Bishop was an extraordinary Canadian, and he lived to tell the story. He didn't die doing it. I like to write about Canadians because I am Canadian, I'm from this country, and it's what I know. So I'm not going to write about Americans, okay?
Forgive me for not bringing forward the fact that you did this fantastically successful Billy Bishop play.
Thank you.
Which played in London, too, did it?
On London, New York. It's on German television this year. Won an award there. It's been to Edinburgh, all over.
Wasn't there some move to kind of denigrate Bishop after the play?
Well, it's funny, yes. There's a whole whole bunch of people who are saying, now here I'm defending the military, okay?
Right.
There's a lot of people who are saying that Billy Bishop's VC was given for political reasons. And they're in fact saying that for political reasons. Because they don't like him because he's a so-called bourgeois hero, right? And there's this, but in fact, he did it. He shot them down. I'm tired of it, but it was a kind of bit of a controversy there.
But did you expect it would go like with the fantastic success it was?
No, I never did. We were looking for a bit of work for a couple of years, and that was it.
And it paid off. That'll go around forever, that one.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's in 6 languages now. It's been done in 40 American cities. It's quite extraordinary.
So really, nationality doesn't matter in that case because it was a story of a very different kind of a man.
Well, you know, it's funny. It's interesting, but you know, the Canadians don't really realize it, but we're interesting. Other people find us interesting, and if we're just honest about ourselves, other people find those things interesting, so we can explore it. You know?
Well, I've never been able to understand this complaint in this country about the lack of identity.
I don't understand it at all. It's never bothered me.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
I'd like to congratulate Mr. Gray. I think there should be more men in Canada like him. More people in Canada like him.
Good.
Thank you.
Any other comment?
Yes, is there any association where anybody can join?
Yes, you can join the Council of Canadians by phoning 682-6331.
682?
6331. Nothing heavy, nothing political. It's just a lot of people of a tremendous variety of stripes who like Canada and who, you know, not comparison with heaven, but in comparison with the competition. You know?
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thanks very much. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. I was involved with Hertig, funnily enough, many years ago and enlisted many thousands of people for the other one.
Oh, the
Committee for an Independent Canada.
And of course it was you. Of course you would.
Yeah.
My family's been here 6 generations, and they came from Scotland because the lairds sold their land out from Ireland to English sheep interests.
Sure, right.
You know?
Go ahead, please.
Jack, you're acting like Falstaff in Shakespeare's comedies. You know, following Mila Mulroney, I think your timing is very bad. You know, your idea of a Canadian is very strange, and a lot of French Canadians would understand that a lot better than you do. Thank you very much.
Incomprehensible.
Quite incomprehensible.
Yeah.
I sometimes wonder if I'm slipping a wee bit, but sometimes the remarks are difficult to understand. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I'd like to compliment your guest on his wit and witticism. And I think the first caller is way off base about the Navy.
Don't laugh when you say Navy.
Yeah.
Don't laugh when I say Navy. It is a laugh.
But I laughed the other day and nobody else did when the cruise missile crashed. I thought it was funny.
Okay, bye.
Okay. Am I twisted?
No, no. I mean, I think we'll need a strong military when our foreign policy becomes something other than Me Too.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning, Jack.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Gray.
Good morning.
I'm a great admirer of your work, first of all.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask you what you think of the, what I feel is a very deplorable arts policy on the part of the BC Pavilion. To get to the point, 20 minutes to do a show, set up, and strike, which was offered to the amateur theater groups of the province.
That happened. Yeah, I know what you mean, and I'm doing some work for the BC Pavilion myself, and I know they're really bothered by that themselves. The problem is that the whole community involvement portion of the BC Pavilion happened after the buildings were in fact designed because of all the fluff that happened earlier on.
Right.
And so it's not architecturally designed for that sort of thing, and they're running into a lot of problems that way. I agree with you.
You mean it's the actual logistics and space which are the problem?
Exactly. You know, these things, it's funny, but it's very easy to kind of put them down to kind of ill will on the or maliciousness on the part of somebody, but it's not really that. Other things I would put down to maliciousness, but not that one. You know.
Yeah, but his problem is that they've got to do their little piece, set up and strike and do a show within 20 minutes.
Oh, well, you should try the Canadian Pavilion where they've got to do it in 15. And they've got a lighting system that isn't even a manufacturer's prototype. It's an R&D prototype. It's just ridiculous. But, oh, don't get me on with that.
Oh, that's interesting, though. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. I have 2 points. One, I want to salute a Canadian, another Canadian, and then a French Canadian. So from the other comments I heard before, French Canadians appreciate humor. The other point is that I was quite disappointed in Mila Mulroney interviews. I feel that she wasn't asked questions that made sense. I think that she's probably very disappointed herself. And comments on her weight, they didn't belong there. Thank you very much.
I have to agree with you about French Canadians. I mean, thank God for French Canada. They're the most culturally sophisticated people in the country.
Yeah, maybe I was wrong. But my light-hearted attempt from my age to make a light-hearted interview may have upset someone.
Oh, heaven help you if you make a joke.
I know.
Heaven only help you. I mean, it's just, it's very funny. I mean, nobody seems to be laughing anymore. I don't understand.
No. I used to be sensitive, but now it's water off a duck's back. Go ahead, please.
Mr. Webster, you need more guests like this. I really don't think that Canada, I should say, I think Canada suffers more of an identity crisis than the other country in the world. Look at the big neighbor we've got to the south. We need more Canadians. We need more intelligent Canadians to give us some sort of identity. Thank you.
Well, when you're living next door to a superpower, it's a luxury to be yourself. I mean, ask Poland, ask Czechoslovakia. It's very, very difficult to keep your identity under those circumstances, and it requires a certain conscious effort, yeah.
Go ahead, please. Hello, what are you?
Hello?
That's you, sir.
Okay, sorry, they didn't say. I was really phoning about what Mila Mulroney was saying earlier. What sort of angered me about it was that she seemed to sidestep the issue that alcohol is a lot worse than marijuana.
She did not sidestep the issue. I wasn't about to let the whole thing be dragged down into the old battle I've done 10,000 times about which is worse, alcohol or drugs.
Yeah, but it's not an argument.
They're both equally
if
bad.
If she thinks they're even equal, then alcohol should be, you know, illegal.
There's no
as
point in
well.
arguing with you. I'm not going to even attempt to argue with you on that specious nonsense. You don't mind me
It's an
being
endless
arbitrary.
discussion.
Endless
going on
discussion. The only thing, no, that was I going to continue it. Go ahead from Prince George.
Hi, Jack.
I'm a student from the College of New Caledonia in Prince George here, and I'm just calling to let you know about what's going on here with our faculty association and the College Board. The faculty hasn't had a contract for over 16 months, and on this weekend, on Saturday, they voted 83% in favor of a strike, and they'll be in a legal position to strike this Thursday at 8 o'clock in the morning. Money and things like that aren't really the basic issues. You know, part-time worker classifications. They want to go to a 3-semester system for the technical courses, which means the college can charge extra money for the semesters to the students, but they won't pay the teachers for the extra month of work that they'll have to do. The Faculty Association wants to go to binding arbitration, but the College Board will not. They know that they will lose the arbitration.
Well, it's only one of a number of eruptions and educational problems around the province, and I'm sorry to hear that you obviously anticipate that the college will close down sometime soon.
Well, that's the whole thing. Like, my program is a certificate program, and if it's closed down for long enough, I won't get my certificate.
And that's
I've been here for 6 months now, and I might as well just throw that money out the window.
I know, it's a personal tragedy. You have my sympathy. Keep me in touch. Let's take a call from Chetwynd. Go ahead, please.
Yes. I don't know if I'm evading John Gray today or not. Appreciate your guest. But Mr. Webster, in regards to our Canadian country, I have a couple ideas that I'd like to share in regards to what's happening.
Well, you got 20 seconds.
20 seconds. We've got so much unemployment. And what I would suggest is this. We have 12 years that people go to school for grade 12. They need to be educated in their own field. Now, there's a lot of kids that are going to work at age 16. They need to go to school. They need
Until the later, I agree. It's one way to cut down unemployment. John, I'm really grateful for you coming in this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Congratulations on your film success. Congratulations on your Dubious Distinction Awards. And maybe we can whip one up next year for British Columbia. After the break. Details will be on the noon news about an accident of 6 to 10 school children standing beside a road in Williams Lake this morning when a car skidded and slammed into the group of children. Police can't confirm the number of children involved, but only would say it was a serious accident. Tomorrow we're going to deal with the hotels and we're going to deal with Pauline Jewett, and I'll be back at 9 a.m. precisely.
Expo 86, 59 days to go.